Nice. It's out of the frame either way. The way I framed it, it's out of the frame. So, 50 seconds, by the way. And then I forgot to redo the new one for the chat, but I have a chat screen too, just in case anyone actually joins us. Oh. And here I just about turned. I thought I thought I turned it off. Damn it. Oh. And here we go. Oops. Hey everybody, Dragon Movie Guy here. Welcome to another, the second ever episode of Movie News You Can Use. I'm still kind of workshopping the name, but it rhymes, so why not? Movie News You Can Use. Oops, there we go. For some reason, I am not getting... Wait, no, there I am again, sorry. Oh. Technical difficulties, folks. What can I say? Oops. Darn it! Look at me, all technically savvy, and then not technically savvy at the very end there. So, let's go with that there. You can see me now. Let's try that again. Hey everybody, Dragon Movie Guy here. Welcome to my second ever episode of Movie News You Can Use. It is all of the movie news you can use. It kind of sort of rhymes, even though it really doesn't. So, we're still workshopping the name a little bit, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below this video. Do you guys like the name Movie News You Can Use? And does it accurately reflect this podcast? I think it sort of does, but I'll leave it up to you guys. Let me know in the comments section down below. Joining me for this, the second ever episode of Movie News You Can Use, is a talented YouTuber who has been having me on way more times than I've had him on. He is the host of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. They do movies every Sunday. Take a deep dive look into movies every Sunday. He's also a friendly neighborhood Fiverr creator who can service all of your needs on Fiverr. Not Fiverr. I'm sure he gets plenty of fiber, plenty of cereal out there, but Fiverr with 2 R's. Please welcome to the podcast, to the Dragon Movie Guy podcast, Rob Kristjansson. Rob, welcome back. Welcome back to the Dragon Movie Guy podcast, where you get plenty of Fiverr and fiber. I just have to pronounce the 2 words correctly.
I do get plenty of Fiverr.
Yeah.
Fiber. Now I'm doing it.
Yeah. You get plenty of Fiverr and Fiverr and fiber. I want to give you the floor here. Let me know. Tell me a little bit about your YouTube channel, Jim and Rob and Overanalyze Movies.
I would love to tell you about my wonderful YouTube channel. As a matter of fact, the channel itself I call It's Never Just a Movie, because, and you and I, as we've had many deep conversations about film and individual films, you know, that's the way I look at it, and that's the way I kind of look at the world. That said, it's kind of all hangs on our weekly podcast, Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. An old high school friend of mine who, Jim Chaboyko and I, where we'll pick a movie, we'll watch it, and then we overanalyze it, to quote my wonderful friend Jim, to within an inch of its life. And then, of course, we also have got See It or Skip It reviews. Those are kind of our spoiler-free content. We'll go see a movie, then we'll kind of give our quick reaction afterwards. And, well, as it says in the name, see it or skip it. And then every now and then I have wonderful guests, such as yourself, on, whether it be to overanalyze an individual movie or, as a matter of fact, it's just about to come out, the edited version, where you and I kind of took a look at movies made for streaming or television versus movies made for the theater. And we had kind of a deep dive and a great conversation about that. I think that's my YouTube channel in a nutshell. If you like that kind of thing, then you should subscribe. Heck, subscribe anyway. It costs you nothing.
Absolutely.
And Rob loves that subscriber number going up.
Oh,
I want
yeah.
to move from several dozen subscribers to several hundred.
Absolutely. And what do you have a live stream coming up this Sunday? And if so, what movie is it for?
As a matter of fact, I do. Now, this Sunday, Jim and I are going to be looking at the German Netflix film Blood and Gold, set in the waning days of World War II. A deserter and some German soldiers are going after, well, here, let me give you a censor on that, because you never know. It's gold. Because you never know how the algorithm feels when you say that word. And we're looking forward to that. Of course, tonight I will be going to, I'll save that for when we're talking about it in your agenda. And then next weekend, we might overanalyze that flick too. So there you go.
Absolutely. I guess it is sort of an agenda. It's a rundown. It's an agenda. It's all kinds of different words to talk about everything that we're talking about. In a weird circle of news cycle zeitgeistiness. So the way this is going to work, I
think this is a great idea, man.
Yeah, thank you.
You know what? I am not sure that film and television really provides enough for every day. At least in my interest, but once a week or even once in a while, yes, it does.
Yeah, and I figure too, this is one of those things where if once a week, if I can start something that's more topical, that's that we're all talking about off the camera when cameras aren't rolling, this is the kind of stuff that we can post about. We can. These are the things that we post about on our Facebook pages, on our Twitter feeds, on our Instagram. All of those social media outlets. These are the kinds of things.
The Grammy social stuff.
The Instagram, Grammy, Emmy, Oscar-y, all of that kind of stuff. All the off-the-camera stuff. So I figured, why not give us something we can use? Give us some movie news you can use, if you will. So the way this is going to work, folks, is we are going to have 5 headlines from this week, custom selected by me, your host, talking about things that are going on in the world of movies for the week of Friday, June 2nd, 2023. And just in case you guys are interested in joining us, oops, sorry, I was trying to be fancy there. Just in case you guys want to join us in the chat, where you can see all of the chats live chatting away in the fancy box on the right, surrounded by text and graphics. And as you can see, I didn't quite get to improving every single graphic. That's from last week, so it didn't quite work.
You know what? But I've been down this DMG my own name for you, Dragon Movie Guy, Brian. DMG, I've been down this road. Your live stream and your production values have only been improving leaps and bounds. I think it looks great what you've got going on right now. Keep it up. I can't wait to see what you'll be producing in a month from now. Your professional news production experience is definitely showing.
Thank you. And honestly, aren't we all kind of piecing it together? The piecing it together is for my guest last week, David Rosen. So check his out as well. Obviously, check Rob out and join us in the chat to talk about everything going on in this week's movie news you can use. And if we missed something, if we missed a news story, let me know in the comments section below. Even if it's after this live stream, let me know in the comments section below the video as well. What movie news would you like to see on the Dragon Movie Guy podcast on the movie news you can use series? I don't know. Making it up as I go here, folks. Starting off these our totals our stories this week. Story number 1 is Memorial Day box office weekend. Memorial Day was last weekend here in the U.S., remembering all of our fallen troops, but it is also a big weekend at the box office. It is the weekend that Star Wars opened up back in the day. It is one of the biggest box office weekends of the year. And the number 1 movie in the box office for Memorial Day 2023 is The Little Mermaid. Took in $117.5 million. Also coming up, sorry, folks. Also coming out that weekend, we had several new movies, including The Machine, which was Bert Kreischer's biopic. That came in at 5th place. Number 2 was Fast X, the 11th Fast and Furious movie, at $28.1 million. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 came in at $26.1 million. And still hanging in there at over $1 billion. The Super Mario Brothers movie took in $8.3 million, good for 4th place at the box
somehow
office.
Is managing.
Yes.
It's struggling.
The little movie that could.
Came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So tell me about The Little Mermaid. Have you seen it yet? And are you surprised that it took number 1 at last weekend's box office?
That's a great question. Let me start with the easy one first. No, I didn't see it. I have no intention of seeing it. In part, if I had kids, sure. Maybe when it ends up on Disney Plus, that's a big maybe. Not really the kind of thing I'm into. That said, am I surprised it took number 1 on the really, in a way, I know we're not quite in summer, but we're close enough that it took the number 1 spot on the first holiday weekend of the, let's say, the summer movie season. No, that doesn't shock me at all. Family-friendly fare does well. Disney family-friendly fare does well at box office is so not a news story. I'm shocked it led. But, well, there we are. What was it? I think you got it on Variety there. That was the link you said. Look at that. It's like, talk about another little movie that could, eh? Like, anyway. So, yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it is amazing how well Disney movies do. Even these sort of cash grabby remakes that really aren't all that original, but I guess that's sort of the point, though, is that it is hard to redo something and get people to pay for it. It is threading of the needle in the hardest way possible, which is you don't want to piss off the people that love the original, but you also don't want to just copy and paste. Whoa. So I actually did see The Little Mermaid. I had a chance to see a screening of it a couple weeks ago. It's good. It's too long to be a kid's movie because it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, which is 52 minutes longer than the original film. But I have not seen the original film, but apparently it's still the same story with 3 extra songs, but it is 52 minutes longer. Everyone, including me, was kind of nodding off a little bit in the film. So, good film, but just it's too long for what it is. There was even a couple kids in the screening that I saw, and they were sort of getting a little fidgety and restless just in the same places that I was in the middle of the film. So, yeah.
So it sounds like it's not really meant for children of any age, that length.
Well, it's the tonality of it, it's definitely for kids, but yeah, the length of it is just, it's yeah.
Long.
Yeah,
Pardon
it's
my
just way too friggin' long for to be a kids movie. I mean, kids movies, they're tiny people. They got to go to the bathroom. 2 hours and 15 minutes is too long for most people, even adults, to go without going to the restroom. So
they got to do.
Yeah, they got all kinds of stuff to do, and so The Little Mermaid, it's a good movie, but it's too long for the story they're trying to tell, and especially considering the audience, it is a bit too long. But it is a good film, and Halle Bailey does a great job as Ariel in the film too. Give me.
Can I ask you a question on this? Just on this one before you move forward on your agenda there. It just occurred to me, do you think one of the reasons it's successful, and maybe it isn't the needle that we might have thought even 10 minutes ago, is that Disney gets 2 kicks at the can here. They get to go, it's great for the kids, but the parents who've already seen the first one, the original, get to kind of see it a different way. But they know the story. They know everything. It's like comfort food. It's like, don't worry, I know this restaurant. Kids will be fine at it. Come on, kids, let's get in the car. And so you get the nostalgia of the parents. Because how long ago was the first one? Did the 1988? Yeah. You might even be getting grandparents who saw it back in 1988 saying, come on, kids, get in the car. We'll both have a same but different experience.
Yeah. Well, and Disney is the master corporation at pulling off the recycling material, because so much of their content
exploiting nostalgia.
Yeah, well, it's because it's all children's entertainment. Kids only remain kids for a certain amount of time, and very famously, even before the digital era, Disney would recycle their hand-drawn animated movies in theaters once every 7 years, because they figure, well, if you're 4 or 5 when one of them comes out, then by the time you're 11, it's a whole new generation of kids comes along. So the fact that they're recycling again for a new era, for a digital era, for an era where 90s nostalgia is just sort of hitting its nadir, it doesn't surprise me. And it's just one of those where you hope that it's good. And there's been mixed reviews, I think, from a lot of people on the live action remakes of those 90s animated films. I haven't seen all of them, but I did like Beauty and the Beast. That was really well done. Aladdin seems to have gotten some mixed results, but Little Mermaid was pretty well done. Halle Bailey did a great job, and then Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. She did a phenomenal job in that role, and who knew Melissa McCarthy could sing? Other than that commercial that's out right now about traveling places. Who knew that Melissa McCarthy could actually sing? I sure did.
Triple threat!
Yes, she is that triple threat. So, I was pleasantly surprised by the film, but it wouldn't surprise me if kids or parents, people that are parents now or grandparents that remember watching it in theaters back in the 80s, took their grandkids and said, "Hey, remember this? I've seen this many times before." Yes, back in my day, before we all had glasses and fake teeth, we all liked Disney too. So tell me, are you surprised by this result at the box office for Memorial Day weekend? Fast X, Guardians still hanging strong and still pulling in over $20 million each.
You know, honestly, my friend, the only one I would have been a little surprised at is The Machine, except that I really didn't think it would get as limited a release as it did. I mean, how many screens was it in? It was only here in Winnipeg, albeit, yes, a tier 3 Canadian city. Still, you know, like we have multiplexes, lots of them. I could only find it in one screen.
Really?
In Winnipeg, in the entire city. So I got to admit, when I look at the math you've got up on the screen there, I would love to compare the Super Mario Brothers 8.3 million, how many screens that was in, versus like the per screen cost. I haven't watched Dan Murrell's, analysis of the Memorial Day weekend numbers, but there's a part of me kind of going, I wonder if they did well per theater, but that in the end, maybe the producers, the distributors, like, this is a niche release. We'll get what we can out of the big screen and then make it up in our streaming sales.
We did
again the prestige of the big screen.
We did get a
relatively
relatively
streaming numbers. Sorry?
We did get a relatively wide release here in Vegas. It was on every theater that I could tell. I don't think it was on multiple screens like The Little Mermaid was. Like the Little Mermaid took up all of the IMAX and 40X and XD screens here in Vegas last weekend. But as far as being in every theater, to my recollection, both The Machine and About My Father got wide releases, at least here in Vegas. I don't know. It does surprise me, though, that as much talk as what was going on my channel and on a lot of YouTube channels, the fact that The Machine pulled in $6 million is a bit of a disappointment, I think, because honestly, with my channel, I was getting tons and tons of shorts views coming in at The Machine more than any other video for this week. So I released 3 or 4 shorts videos, not all that many, and that was the number one for shorts videos on my channel for this week. So the fact that it only made $6 million is a little surprising at the reflection of, especially considering that the Super Mario Brothers movie has been out a month already, and the fact that counter family programming was out in The Little Mermaid, the fact that The Machine made less than the second most family movie for Memorial Day weekend for a stand-up comedian that's relatively popular, telling a college Van Wilder-esque type story involving the Russian mafia. It does surprise me a little bit that The Machine was as low as it is. And then I didn't even the fact that The Machine only made $6 million, I didn't even bother looking up About My Father. So if The Machine made $6 million and that was the one that everyone was sort of talking about online, I don't even know what About My Father made, because it's definitely less than that.
I just looking it up on Wikipedia, and it may have been a limited Winnipeg release, but maybe they should have done that everywhere. The Machine, according to Wikipedia, was released on 2,409.
Wow.
2,409 screens over the 4-day Memorial Weekend. Holy crap. Yeah, that's, it sucked wind.
Yeah, 2,400 screens. And the over-under on whether it's a wide release or a not wide release is usually about 1,000 screens. So 2,400 screens.
That is a solid, legit wide release.
Yeah, that is surprisingly underachieving, in my opinion.
Apparently, according to this, Brian, I don't know if you can see this on my screen here, but
it's a little pixely, but kind of see it.
There, I'm Rotten Tomatoes. The aggregate score was 22%. So maybe it's just like, I haven't had the chance to see it yet. I still want to see it, but I got to admit now it's like, maybe I'll just wait until it gets on streaming.
Well, come on. The Machine is not one of those that Rotten Tomatoes is going to really like. The Machine. The Machine is one of those where
I don't think Rotten Tomatoes has an opinion.
But like critics and stuff, critics like you and me, like a lot of the critic type people out there. If you see a story about a fat guy who's shirtless who gets drunk in college, it's not exactly highbrow, highfalutin Oscar material there. That's
but I mean, they give. I got to push back there. They gave great reviews to plenty of Marvel movies. They get great numbers. Critics like good movies. I think you and I are the same in that respect. It's not about, is this highfalutin? It's about, is this any good? Did I walk out of the theater entertained, motivated? Did it get me in here? Like Guardians of the Galaxy got me in here. Am I thinking, where's its Oscars campaign? Where's its for your consideration campaign? No, I am not.
By the way, did you turn your?
I think my big screen fave right now.
Did you turn your audio down at all?
I did. My apologies.
I was just because I could turn it up, but I don't want. If you turned yours down, I don't want to turn mine up.
You may want to boost that in post.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. Sorry, man.
But yeah, this is definitely not a feels movie, though. Ironically, though, I did like it, but the problem with The Machine, if anything, was the fact that they were going too much for the feels, and it took too long to get into the whole machine routine thing.
Well, and you gotta set up the feels, right? Like, I mean, feels don't need to be every single scene. It needs to be build up, and now here's the emotional moment.
No, but that was
emotional moment. Oh, and then some action.
Yeah, that was kind of the issue, though, was the fact that it was a lot of build up. So when if the movie is called The Machine, and you wait until the last half hour of a 2-hour movie to get to the machine, that's too much build up. In my opinion, it was funny, but it was a little bit too long for a comedy, and it was it's one of those to wait for streaming because they spent a lot of money. There's some visual stuff in there where it makes sense as to we want to have a studio level comedy. They definitely spent that money, but I think it was a little bit too much money spent on the screen and not enough focus on the comedy, which is odd to say for a film that focuses so much on the feels. The feels. He's a dad now.
Well, again, unearned moments.
Yeah,
properly set up, right?
This is true.
You know what? I'll still check it out because I still want to see Mark Hamill on the big screen.
Yeah.
For what may be the last time now if it wasn't that big a win.
Yeah.
The studio's going, well, you didn't bring him in, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to admit I was a little bit disappointed that they released both stand-up comedians going on a road trip with their father movies the same friggin' weekend. They couldn't have spaced him out by a couple weeks and both gotten the summer movie season big dollar bills thing. They had to both be Memorial Day, and neither one of them, as far as I could tell, involves service to the country or serving in the military. So there's no thematic element there of having to come out Memorial Day weekend. So yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed.
What, as opposed to Little Mermaid?
That's a cash grab. It's Disney.
Let us recognize our fallen with the Little Mermaid.
Yeah. This is true too.
Wait a second. You know what? I deserve a rim shot for that one.
You do. Yeah, you have the fully realized audio studio.
You know what? I love the fact this was, well, you can look it up, the Rodecaster Pro 2. It's not cheap, but easy access to the sound effects, which I'm now actually getting good at remembering where they are. Worth, my friend, every nickel, every
Absolutely.
rim-shotted, tromboned, applause, air horn, nickel.
As far as gear goes, that is a pretty piece of gear, for sure. So absolutely.
I didn't get it just for the sound effects. You could do that a million different ways for not for free practically, built into OBS. So
but that has buttons that light up just like it's Star Trek. So
oh yeah, no. I do enjoy it.
Absolutely. So let's move on from last weekend's box office to this upcoming weekend's box office. Coming up this next weekend, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse hitting
what is
theaters.
This Spider-Man you speak of?
Yes, the Spider-Man Chronicles.
Who is this Spider-Man character? I've never heard of this.
This is the second in the Sony animated Spider-Verse film. The first one won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature a couple of years ago. This is the second of 3. And they are expecting $150 million worldwide this weekend, and a little bit less than that
in the
here
interest
in North
of full
America.
disclosure, I contributed to that potential 150 million today. I'll be seeing it tonight. Ticket purchased, seat chosen.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, we've got screenings going on as we speak, actually, here too.
Yeah. Like I could have seen it this afternoon, but no, I wanted to be here with you, Brian.
You had to come into cyberspace to come on my podcast.
Easy call. Easy call, my friend.
I appreciate it. I have not bought my ticket yet, but I will be there with you in spirit. I'll be there in one of the many theaters here in Las Vegas, and I'm sure everyone
going tonight. Or are you going to check it out tomorrow? What's your plan?
I'm going to try and go tonight. I've got actually a bunch of stuff to catch up on, but I will go tonight and have at least an instant movie review up, a shorts instant movie review up on my channel.
That's what I'm hoping for. Late tonight, a see it or skip it from the Tim Hortons.
Absolutely, yeah. Every time I see one of your
co-host, Jim, still in BC, British Columbia. Sorry for you folks who aren't Canadian. May not be familiar with our geography. Beautiful British Columbia, the big jerk.
All the trees and the water and the moderate climate.
The mild weather.
The barely gets any snow yet hosted the Winter Olympics.
That
I still love that, by the way, that they finally give the Winter Olympics to Canada, and it's in a city that barely gets any snow. That was 10 years ago.
No, it's always been a challenge. Well, no, as a matter of fact, here's a little dive down Olympics history. Canada has been at the forefront of making games expensive.
Montreal, yeah.
Montreal, but no, actually, Calgary. 1988, Calgary. First Olympics that actually made a nickel. That didn't bankrupt the local city, didn't crush the local government. Also showed, wow, yeah, you can make good cake if you've got it in the right time slot, in the right time zone for television, and really worked the sponsors hard. Like, just did it right. They did everything right. But all of a sudden, that kind of fueled the gold rush mentality of, wow, look at what it did for Calgary. Now, of course, Calgary was already at the tail end of, actually, you could say by 1988, it was in the bust of it had an oil boom, and it was already in the bust. But part of what financed it was all those oil license dollars, But yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, wow, you could really go to town. And all of a sudden, yeah, the chance of Calgary ever getting an Olympics again, pretty slim. BC's got BC, Vancouver, the larger population center, and more, a provincial government's like, well, we want all that action. And all of a sudden you get some, but all part of the global rush to, oh, this is a great idea. And you could argue that, I'm not saying that there was no corruption before Calgary, but after Calgary, you start getting a lot of corruption stories out of the Olympics. And a lot of that goes back to Calgary being successful. You could argue that part of the problem for the Olympics, FIFA Women's World Cup, or FIFA World Cup or Women's World Cup is fast success just attracted criminality. Criminality. I can't watch these things now. It's just, I've dealt with too many greasy people in these global sports organizations.
What a difference a year makes. 1988 is a big year for Alberta with the Olympics for Calgary, and 1989 you lose Wayne Gretzky. So what a difference a year
Alberta
makes.
Did. Edmonton did.
Yeah.
Didn't bother me in Winnipeg.
That's another province over. That's a whole other.
And also a rival team. Like all through the 80s, when Winnipeg Jets, the previous version of the Winnipeg Jets, it was always in the same division, the Smythe division, and always some of the best hockey I'd ever seen was Winnipeg pushing, beating Calgary sometimes, but pushing Edmonton to the wall. Like they almost didn't get out. Stanley Cup winning teams went 7 games because of Winnipeg. And I was at some of those original whiteouts when I was a younger man and a kid. I like to be able to say I was a kid, but I wasn't. I was a young man with a real job. And it was one of the most exciting hockey I'd ever seen, some of the most exciting games I'd ever seen. It was an experience. Of course, I'm a little older, a little more cynical about organized sport in general. So when the Jets returned, although I had work reasons to be there, so I got to experience some of that buzz, I'm just a lot less interested. Even in the Olympics, last Winter Olympics, I'm like, it kind of went by on me.
Look at you, the non-sports fan, talking sports.
I have been involved. I've been very fortunate, and I really mean this, to be involved in a number of sports events because of an old job and games kind of events, whether it be FIFA Women's World Cup or the Olympic torch relay when you're talking 2010, the Olympics were in, like I've got experience with these organizations. Who knew? Canada Summer Games was something from the bid team all the way through to the end of it all. I was there as the city's representative as part of the organization that put that on. One of the best working experiences I've ever had, even though most of the time I hated it. Same with FIFA Women's World Cup. Looking back, it's like, I learned a ton. I had some wild experiences, some of which I'll tell you in the digital green room afterwards.
And we
I'm really taking this way off on a tangent. Sorry, man.
This is a tangent.
You know what? This is here, just a sec here, man. I'm going to give you look for that click in the waveform when you're editing it. And you go, oh,
well,
right, there we go. And then I just go back. How long Kristjansson just wouldn't shut up about sports. All right, there we go.
That is the great irony is I'm the big sports fan and you're the one that won't shut up about the sports. Especially on the precipice of the Stanley Cup being played between a team in the desert and a team on the beach.
As I said before, you know what? It's even going back to the original 6. It's 4 American teams, 2 Canadian teams.
This is true.
You know?
So getting back to our box office predictions.
What are we talking about again? Oh, right. Movies.
The box office predictions for Deadline has it as Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, looking to get try that once more time. Deadline has it that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse will make $150 million worldwide, coming to the screen 5 years after the last one. The first one, Into the Spider-Verse, won an Oscar. What are your expectations for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
I am, like all these ones, I am cautiously optimistic. I think the first one did a great job at teasing this larger world. And that now, whereas the larger world, let's say, came to our space, and yes, it's an animated thing, but that it came to the space we've been centered on as audience members with Mr. Morales, let's say our Spider-Verse Spider-Man, that we're now going to go into that world. I think that's exciting to me. That's interesting to me. If they can maintain the emotional punch that the other ones had, do we see him being challenged in a different way and growing even more, that we get to know some of the other players a bit better? I think it's a great and an exciting opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it tonight. Will it pay off? Will Sony make money? Yes, it will.
Oh, yeah.
It's already got some of mine. It'll get some of Jim's next week, because the week after this Sunday, we'll be overanalyzing it in our live stream. But you never know. Like, none of these people owe us a good time. They're trying to give us a good time, but they don't owe it to us. I can only hope. I mean, there's worse things in the world. If I come out of the theater going, well, that sucked. Such is life. Not every movie works out. Heck, most of them don't.
Well, and it's sort of
movies are kind of meh.
And it's sort of interesting too. I got to go to CinemaCon this year. And CinemaCon 2022... I
wasn't jealous at all.
Yeah. CinemaCon 2022 had the first 15 minutes of the film. I did not see that last year. CinemaCon 2023, which I was at, I did see the second 14 minutes. They showed a 14-minute clip. And that was actually focused on the emotion, not so much the animation. And it was sort of interesting to see the animation process in terms of like 75% of the shots in this relatively emotional, just talking scene, were all finished graphics. But you could tell where they were working on the script up until the last minute, and so we had working CGI, temporary CGI, in segments of this 14-minute long scene. So it was really interesting to see, even though your ears couldn't tell the difference between the finished audio and the temp tracks, the emotion. They're still working on that, fine-tuning it even just a month ago. So I am really excited for this one. Interesting, also, they're expecting a $60 million open here in North America, and even a surprisingly big open overseas. Even in China, they're expecting a pretty big release for Spider-Man. So it's sort of funny how we think of this as, Spider-Man is a kid from the Bronx. It is Peter Parker. It is now Miles Morales. And yet this is a character that does translate worldwide pretty well.
And it's only 36 minutes longer than the first one. Only. That's one bathroom break. I got to tell you that I'm not gonna lie, that concerns me a little.
Yeah.
That first movie, 100 minutes, tight, fast-paced, or well-paced. I shouldn't say fast-paced. Well-paced, well-calibrated. Is that extra 36 minutes going to be spent thinking back to what you're talking about with The Little Mermaid. Oh, we'll throw in more action, bigger action, longer set pieces. And I'm like, that's not all that a movie is. I need a character to begin in one place and end up in another. And I don't mean just at the mall when he left home. There better be an inner journey.
Yeah, I think that
feel it, man.
Well, I think that we will. If that 14-minute clip from CinemaCon that I saw that you didn't, no humble brag there.
No, not at all.
No, not at all.
Didn't notice that I saw that you didn't. Rob.
I think
how's it out in the sticks?
Yeah. I noticed that there wasn't any snow today. Oh. No, I think you will be pleasantly surprised with this. And they always say it's the middle chapter of a trilogy is always the dark, and I actually saw, as far as that scene that they showed, it's not all that dark and depressing. It's very heartfelt, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by the feels of it.
And if it isn't a hero's journey, a trilogy hero's journey, it doesn't need to be dark. I mean, I think of, well, maybe a more modern, epic, heroic trilogy like Guardians of the Galaxy, where each one has stakes. And yes, the stakes continue to build. The emotional stakes continue to build. I wouldn't call the second Guardians of the Galaxy a turn to the dark. Yeah, it ends on a note that's like, just, even now when I think about it, I get misty. But so well earned and so hopeful and joyous at the end. And I really mean that, joyous at the end. Yeah. Damn, I really love that series.
And honestly, too, whenever you,
what that has to do with next week's or this weekend's box office? Nothing. Go see Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Well, honestly, too, whenever you mention steaks, I always think ribeye and tri-tip. So I think across the board, though, I think it's probably safe bets as to being entertaining and satisfying, if not for your stomach in the term of actual steaks, then definitely to the eyes, the visual Olympics going on, if you will. Let's moving on to our third story. We have in the background of the WGA writer's strike that's going on right now, we have some productions are still going on. And we did a deep dive into the writer's strike a couple of weeks ago. So anyone who wants to see that, I will have the link to that full discussion in the comments section below this video. But the point was that you can still film a movie, but you can't make any changes to the script while you're filming it, while there's a writer's strike going on. And one of my thoughts was Deadpool. Deadpool 3 is coming to the MCU. Somehow Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool have convinced Disney to do a rated R movie. But seemingly the best part of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is all of the improv, all of the off-the-cuff stuff that makes it into the final film. And if the writer's strike they've already started filming, and with the writer's strike going, Ryan Reynolds, a.k.a. Wade Wilson, a.k.a. Deadpool, will not be able to improvise on set.
No writing on the fly, so to speak.
No improv, no breaking the fourth wall if it wasn't planned ahead of time, if it wasn't already in the script. What are your thoughts on, should they have delayed the shooting of Deadpool 2 get Deadpool 3 given the nature of this film, or are you surprised that they've kind of pushed forward and you hope you hope that maybe this writer's strike gets solved and they can, granted we don't see Deadpool's mouth move very often, so maybe they can fix all that kind of stuff in post. But are you surprised that they've still gone on and are still filming Deadpool 3 with this writer's strike going on?
I am not surprised. I think the amount of money that you put into a Deadpool 3 is such that to sit on it for what could be like months and months, where they're like, okay, we've got this money now, and I'm not saying it goes stale, but it could kind of go stale, to invest into this film that will be released at this date, because all these studios, all these big distributors are looking years in advance on where they're going to slot it in. It could very well have been there was a decision made maybe even several months ago when they were talking about, as they were ramping up to production, things been greenlit, the money's starting to be spent, and they're like, well, what if there's a strike? And they may have said, you know what, it's too late to stop. Let's just hope if it happens, it's not a long one. And they may have also been then really kind of hammering in that writer's room saying, we gotta be tighter than we normally would. Now, I don't know if we talked about it when we did your show on the writer's strike, but Quantum of Solace, there is a great, and I will send you, if I didn't already, I'll send you the link to a great tweet thread about why the Quantum of Solace is such a forgettable recent James Bond movie. They're producing it during a writer's strike, and it kind of shows how writers are required even during production. And I guess both the director and, what is the man's name?
Daniel Craig.
Thank you. Daniel Craig, he in an interview said, I'm many things. A writer, I'm not. And how they felt kind of hooped as they were going through that production. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't bode well. That said, these guys don't owe you and I a good time. You hope it's a good time. It's what they want to give us. But isn't that the point of you and I? We're the ones who take the risk to go see the flick, and then we come out and go, ooh, yikes, skip it. Or, well, not that anyone listens to us. Most people watch reviews to see what somebody else thought of a movie they saw.
Yeah.
Not, should I go see the movie?
And look,
they've made that call already.
Let's be honest too. You and I want the movies to be good, but if the movie is bad, that's almost just as good for each of our channels, because if we can tee it up and make fun of a really bad film, saying this is the worst movie, not just of the last month, not just of the last year, but since they involved.
But woof.
This is the worst movie since film was turned into color and talkies, and since Thomas Edison invented that hand crank thing where everyone runs in fast motion back with the Keystone Cops, this movie is that bad. Those can be just as fun too.
I think it's really got to be something else before I really have fun running it down. But what I do like about a bad movie is it's much like a really good one. You can really break it down and go, this is what's wrong. This didn't work. Whereas the mediocrities in the middle, they're so mushy that you're like, it just wasn't that good. I don't know. What could they have done to fix it? I don't know, make a different movie? Whereas a bad movie, you can kind of go, here, this is where it falls apart. This didn't work. That didn't work. And that analysis I enjoy. But it's the same thing as a great movie. You're like, Wow. You an embarrassment of praiseworthy riches, where you go, boy, I really felt this, and wasn't that amazing? And the mush in the middle, it's like, I don't know, why are we even talking about this?
It's sort of like we were talking on your channel. Bo is Afraid. Yeah, no one is coming out of Bo is Afraid just going, it was all right. You either love it, or you're like everyone else who went in wanting to love it and go, ugh.
Woof.
Someone trying to be an auteur. Oh, yeah. So hopefully Deadpool 3 is not Bo is Afraid. I can almost guarantee that Deadpool 3 is not Bo is Afraid. But also, too, look, if this is one of those things where these big, 9-figure movies that have $100 million budget, oftentimes they get to do reshoots anyway, so my guess would be that they could either do voiceovers with Deadpool, given that we don't even see Deadpool's mouth move all that often, and Ryan Reynolds is always putting on the Deadpool costume anyway, and whatever improv, I'm sure they could probably get him and Vanessa together, and whoever, or Cable, whoever's in this movie along with him, to do them. Also interesting, a couple of months ago when they first announced Deadpool 3, they did the announcement and said it would be coming out September 2024, next September. And within a week of that announcement, they had already pushed it back to November. And I wonder if that was one of those things where they just sort of realized after the announcement, oh, we've got a writer's strike coming. So maybe we want to buy ourselves a little bit of time, and instead of having a Labor Day release, we have a Thanksgiving release. Let's buy ourselves 2 months right now.
Yeah.
Push it back those 2 months.
Tough. It's almost like a reverse Jenga, like where you're building on really rickety sort of, okay, I've got one here. Can I put one on top? And then got to put two here. That's a tough one, right? I'm not saying these are the smartest guys in the room, men and women, sorry. These folks aren't the smartest in the room, but they're not dummies either. They have, though, forces upon them that we don't get to see. We can infer, we can speculate on. A close analysis of the trade press can give you some ideas, but in the end, we just don't know why they pulled the pin then. And even afterwards, I kind of always look at well, this is why we did it. And it's like, is that your kind of going, well, actually, it was this, but I don't want anyone to think that. I want it to think this, because then that makes me look smart. Who knows? Who knows, right?
I just love this Deadpool series. This is a series that the Fox executives couldn't stop, the Disney executives couldn't stop. The only thing stopping it as of right now is the writer's strike. So, and I hopefully the writer's strike will be coming to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be resolved very soon.
Before the actors and the directors go out on the picket line.
Yeah, and have the perfect storm of work stoppages. Yeah. Speaking of work, I wanted to give you the screen again, and you've been showing us some of the audio bells and whistles, literally, that you have available at your beck and call. Tell me a little bit about your Fiverr job postings. What do you offer?
Well, I offer, basically, it breaks down to two things. Yes, I am a gig worker, a Fiverr and other avenues, but a lot of it comes out of Fiverr. And that's voiceover for a number of areas. And I also do a lot of podcast, what I would call podcast production. And that could be anywhere, my friend, from somebody's got some terrible audio for the podcast. Maybe they were doing an on-location recording, and it just has a lot of background noise, and it's really kind of hard to pick your speakers from the woof around them. Or a bad phone connection, whatever, and I help repair that. I can't turn. This is how I like to put it with clients. I can't turn gold. I can't turn lead into gold, but I can polish it up so it looks like, or at least sounds like silver.
And you've actually done and you've also done podcast hosting for hire as well?
Yes, I have. I've done a bit of that. And what I have is also help people from the ground up. As a matter of fact, I'm working with a client right now. She's got an idea that she's trying to bring to fruition. And so we're starting right from her concept and building her podcast, her template, her episode template. As a matter of fact, we're just going over intro and outro scripts now, and I'll be helping her record that in my digital studio. So that's the kind of thing I do there. And as far as voiceover goes, I'm very much a corporate utility player, Brian. So I do a lot of corporate explainer, or let's say corporate announcement, ad copy for, business promo. I can even do a bit of rock and roll. I do some voicey kind of things. I got a great old timey here today. And I also do voicemail messages, that kind of thing. Yeah, that gives you an idea. I also can do a great intro and outro to your podcast if that's what you're looking for. We're listening now to Dragon Movie Guy, or welcome to another wonderful episode of Dragon Movie Guy. What style do you need? That's what I can do. I'll get on the fancy mic. Not that this is junk, but I'll get on my fancy mic and make something beautiful, make something that sounds great for you today.
I love it. Full service audio studio, waiting for hire. Rob Kristjansson, everybody. You can put it in the. I put the link in the video description below this video.
Many thanks, my friend. I really
absolutely.
That.
And you've helped a lot of people, including me, with this whole podcast space. And so for all your
as a matter of fact, that's a gig I'm thinking of starting, is helping people with OBS, and how they can set up interviews and that. So maybe that's something you and I can work on together.
Absolutely. So Rob Kristjansson on Fiverr in the video description below this video.
Many thanks, my friend.
Yes, you're welcome. Going to our number 4 story of the day, of the week, we have
Ezra.
Yeah, we have Ezra Miller making some headlines, and not entirely in a bad way this time. Variety is reporting that the Flash director, Andy Muschietti, is quoted as saying that he doesn't want any other Flash than his Flash. He wants Ezra Miller to come back as Barry Allen, the Flash. If as far as Andy Muschietti goes, going forward, Ezra Miller is still his Flash, regardless of all the off the field, off the screen antics that have kind of gone on. There have been a ton of great reviews for The Flash coming out in a couple, Flash opens up June 16th. I've actually already seen The Flash. It is a really good film. It is one of, if not the best DCEU film. It
really
resets everything. Yeah, I mean, granted, the DCEU is not a high bar to say it's the best film, but of the DCEU films, it is. Granted, I've only seen it once so far, but it is near the top. If it's not at the top, it is near the top of DCEU films. So this is not empty praise coming from the director, Andy Muschietti, directed towards Ezra Miller. I would, but regardless, do you think that regardless of how well this film does at the box office, critical reception, public praise, Do you think that Ezra Miller will be the Flash going forward?
If it's as good as it is and it makes money, wouldn't surprise me at all. I think the whole story kind of illustrates how much nobody cares about the off stuff if it's making money. You're making money. Everybody wants to have that performer, that, let's say, that fulcrum for all the money making work. And so, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me at all. You know, he'd have to end up in jail before they're like, wow, we really can't. And even then they might go, okay, so how long's his sentence? Can he do a work furlough program? When is he out? When is he out? I know that's what normal prisoners get, but when is our prisoner out?
So are you saying that if he did get arrested, sentenced, and goes to prison, if he gets furloughed, work released, are you saying that he could be on the set wearing the Flash costume with an ankle bracelet on? Are you saying that we can have the Flash
and the ankle bracelet? There'd be a different rule for that. I mean, I'm being a little facetious, of course, DMG. That said, yeah, it's right now. If it's as good as you say it is, actually, never mind. You figure it's good. I believe you. So it's a good movie. If it makes money, then yeah, they're gonna go. And if Machete, I guess his spouse, or maybe it's his sister, I don't know the relationship, Barbara Machete, she's saying he was a pro on set. And we're not actually hearing drama about him on set. So even he's like, well, no, I can behave for an employer. You're some poor woman outside a bar in Iceland. Well, here comes the choke, which I think is what's terrible here. That said, yeah, I think that doesn't surprise me at all. It depresses me a little, but it doesn't surprise me. I get it. They'll make that movie. They'll make that movie unless he does something so egregious that it's like, oh, we're not going to spend another $250 million. He's going to tank us.
Yeah, and let's be honest too. If we look at Robert Downey Jr., the most successful superhero of the last 20 years, Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, Iron Man. Now, granted, Iron Man comes along after he did all that stuff, and he's been clean and sober since then. Yeah. So
he had to demonstrate, and it sounds like Miller is doing that too. The demonstrating, I can be clean. I can show up for work.
But it'll be interesting to see long term how Ezra Miller's legal problems are treated. Will they be treated like Robert Downey Jr. or will they be treated like Armie Hammer? So it really kind of depends on, it's a little icky to talk about, but it's.
I think it's part of the depressing thing. Is that, of course, it's going to be different in court, and good for Ezra Miller, not necessarily good for any of the victims, right? That said, you know what? I mean, this middle-aged white man should probably not be editorializing on that. There are many of women creators in our space who can, probably give a more personal and relevant comment on that part of the story. But for the question, going back to the question you originally asked, yeah, it doesn't shock me at all. Of course they'll make another movie with him. If he can show up and they can make money off of him, then he's got a job and they've got money to make.
Also interesting.
And
Yeah.
And scene.
Also interesting is the fact that in this same article, we have Peter Safran and James Gunn have now taken over the DCEU, and we have some relatively complimentary quotes from Peter Safran regarding Ezra Miller in the role of the Flash. Ezra is completely committed to their recovery. Several other things that are very complimentary to his efforts.
Fully supportive.
Yes.
And we are fully supportive of that journey.
Yes, we are very supportive of that. But still, in there's not 100% committal to keeping Ezra Miller as the Flash. But either way, it's interesting to see the new regime commenting on the old regime's Flash. And you know, they're saying nice stuff before the movie comes out. I think we'll see relatively quickly, once the box office totals start coming in after the film comes out, whether or not Ezra Miller actually does stay as Barry Allen Flash in this film. Rounding down,
again, he continues. If Ezra, they continue to get better, and he isn't in jail.
Yeah,
and they think that they, being the star, isn't going to discount the amount of money they can make off of it more than having to recreate a character. Because you bring a new actor in at that level, you got to give the character a different spin again. Yeah, no, they'll be like, no, we've invested a lot in this.
Very true.
We wish to continue to make money.
Absolutely.
This isn't, what was the last big character replacement? Probably, what is it called? War Machine?
Oh, yeah.
It was Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle. Nobody noticed that, but that's because not a key character. Barely one of the, yes, an official member of the Avengers, kind of, Junior. Hawkeye is way more a member than War Machine in the Avengers set. You change Don Cheadle, ditch him, put somebody else in it. Still be, Machine would move forward.
This is true. And ironically, the one Machine that doesn't involve Bert Kreischer in this particular podcast. Moving on to our...
Yeah, listen, man, we can have a real one. You deserve that. You, Brian, deserve a real.
Rob Kristjansson, available on Fiverr.
Yeah.
Moving on to
or as a guest on your podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
I come with my own sound effects. All right, where are you taking us, Brian?
Moving on to our fifth and final story for today. It is reported by the Hollywood Reporter. Conveniently enough, reported by the Hollywood Reporter on the Hollywood News. Lionsgate confirms that John Wick 5 is in early development.
Of course it is.
This shouldn't be any surprise. Granted, John Wick 4 cost a lot of money, but it made a ton of money. We've got a John Wick spinoff coming. We're getting a John Wick TV series coming out, all within the John Wick universe, the Wickiverse, if you will. So we're in early development for John Wick Part 5. Are you excited for a John Wick 5? And granted, we're getting this spin-off film coming out next year. We're getting the spin-off TV series coming out, I believe, next year as well. Are you excited for a fifth John Wick movie?
This talk and John Wick 4's success, what it has done is moved my needle towards maybe I should go check this movie out. I was not excited, though, about John Wick 4. I was like, why? For the love of God. Like, let the guy, Oh my God, it's still fighting? Still? Oh, all right. Okay. What are we seeing different? How are we seeing change? Like, I have become, since I started this journey in YouTube movie punditry, commentary, analysis, I have become more and more about the character growth and character change. I find that's what gets me engaged in a film more. And John Wick, I'm not saying that the characters aren't interesting or engaging, but there's not a lot of change. It really is an action adventure, barely an adventure. It's an action flick, and it's about surviving as opposed to changing. And although, mind you, I've never done a really deep analysis of John Wick. So, but yeah, I'm like, all right, maybe I got to go see John Wick 4 because, Google's reminding me of something. Sorry about that.
Well, what have you seen John Wick 4 and
no. This is,
no?
like I said, it's because of this story, because of you sending me that story going, hey, I want to talk about this. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to go see John Wick 4 now. For the love of God, why? Why? Wait a second. Why? Here.
Why?
Ooh, that's a different effect. I like that one.
I got them all, baby.
The depressed robot one.
Try the chicken. I'm here all week.
Try the veal, yeah. Push the veal. So, how many of these John Wick movies have you seen?
I saw the first 3. Blown away by the first one. Still think that's one of the best movies, pure action movies of the last 20 years. Fantastic flick, and remarkable in how we are okay with a huge amount of murder. Like, that body count is crazy, insane, over motivation that, if you think about it rationally, it's like, that's a bit of an overreaction. Like, but in the storytelling space, in the film, you're like, you are owned by it. You get it. Like, that's great emotional establishing of a character. By the time that poor little dog meets a miserable fate, you're like, I'm like everyone else. Somebody needs to pay. And the more he makes people pay, the more you're like, yes.
Yeah.
That dog must be avenged. Sorry for those who haven't seen the first one and for whatever reason, like, oh, no, it's spoiled.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah, I think that was great. After that, it's just diminishing returns for me.
John Wick 4 is as good as John Wick 1. I mean, I think the impressiveness over what they did with the first film with a tiny budget is a little bit lost, because there's a huge budget for John Wick 5 or John Wick 4. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And I did not see John Wick 2 and 3 as of yet, but John Wick 1 I watched in theaters. I don't know why I didn't watch 2 and 3, but John Wick 4 is the first movie on Dragon Movie Guy in the 3-year history of Dragon Movie Guy that I've given a 5-star review to. So I think you will enjoy John Wick 4 quite a bit.
Right.
It is 3 hours long, but it is, there's so many action movie, punch 'em up, beat 'em up action movies out there. And to be fair, the director the director kind of comes out of that school. But the emotional journey of this arc, and honestly too, the action scenes alone Like, I could name off 4 or 5 of the action scenes and just say the hotel scene, the staircase. Like,
Yeah.
Those scenes are so iconic in how they were designed and executed in John Wick 4. The execution was just as good for the action scenes as they were for the bad guys. Yep. So I think you'll really love John Wick 4 when you do see it.
I'll go check it out. Because even when I think of John Wick 1, and you could compare the two. They both had similar budgets, similar great action set pieces. John Wick and Atomic Blonde. There's a reason why I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Style, had all of the style, but I didn't care about any of these characters. By the end of it, was like kind of, oh, so that's the way it ends. Kind of, what?
And I did like Atomic Blonde, but this one.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying Atomic Blonde was, I'm not saying that at all, but I'm also saying there was style over substance. Whereas John Wick, again, by the time the mayhem starts, you're like, you are in it, emotionally engaged, because it takes the time to establish that character and where they are in their heart. And you're like, yeah, I get it. He needs to. That poor little dog.
And honestly,
wife.
John Wick,
like everything is about the emotional moment. And then you even, on top of that, you have emotional moments in the father-son relationship with the antagonists, where you feel for the father and even a little bit for the son, even though he's such a piece of you-know-what. Because you kind of go, yeah, your father didn't love you. Your father wanted you to be someone else. Apparently wanted you to be John Wick, but he was too busy spoiling you or whatever, right? All of a sudden you can create a whole backstory with just a couple of well thought out scenes, emotional scenes. But another thing, going back to singing the praises of the first John Wick, one of the things I learned when I was in film, I remember a local stunt coordinator, second unit director, as a lot of stunt coordinators are, and I had the opportunity to compete for a role in one of these movies we were both working on. I was the assistant to the director, but I had a shot. And he says, "All right, I'm going to give you the 30 seconds film acting class." And it helped me, gave me the confidence to go in. I ended up getting the role. Who knew? But he's talking about violence. And he says, when you're violent, it's maybe some of the most intimate moments in a film, or when they're at their most violent. It's certainly emotional and visceral. But if you can do it right, if you understand that, and John Wick's such a great first example, it was made by a couple of stunt coordinators who became directors, that they understood that there can be emotion there needs to be emotion as a payoff to this violence, or as a reason for the violence, that there's an intimate connection happening. You feel it in the simplest of moments. The poor little dog. And it's even, that happens off screen, but you get it. You know what happened. You're like, ugh. And when the father and the son, and again, spoilers for who hasn't fucking seen this movie, pardon me, who hasn't seen this movie, when he gut punches him, and you feel that emotional moment. What did I do, Daddy? And he's like, it's not what you didn't do, or it's what you didn't do, or something. I don't know. Can't quite remember the line, but I remember the emotional impact and how it's demonstrated in a moment of violence.
And I think you see all of that in spades
in number
John
4,
Wick 4.
right?
And
Right.
and the thing is too, it's not just John Wick. We get other characters in that universe that are just as deadly, but have different stories and have different styles. So it is absolutely worth watching, because I don't know how they do it, but the fact that it's all 2 or 3 or 4 of these characters have such fleshed out, well done characters within a John Wick movie is really fascinating. So definitely worth watching. So
Cool. Well, I'll go check out number 4.
Absolutely, yeah.
I make this commitment to you now. I will watch that movie.
I wait your report back on watching John Wick 4, because I hate the thing too.
It's at least short worthy. This is for DMG. Yeah, short made for one. Yeah, it was worth it.
And the thing is too, I hate doing the thing where I hate doing the thing too where you build up a film and you go, "It is the greatest thing ever," and then people go, and then they go and see it, and they're expecting the greatest thing ever, and they, "Oh yeah, it was good." Yeah. So as opposed to lowering, so as opposed to lowering expectations, it was your favorite. It's fine.
Fine.
It's a 4-letter F word. Fine. John Wick 4.
I do though. I have to come up with a different. I like fine.
No, it's a great word. Because it's 4 letters and it's an F word.
Mush either. If I think of movies mediocre, that's a mediocrity. Whereas I'd say Free Guy, as my first time I really started to lean into the word fine, I think that's a fine movie. It's perfectly fine.
Well, look, it's 4 letters. It starts with an F. It's fine. And
it's the one that doesn't need one of.
Yeah. It's a word that doesn't need a bleep, but you can sure use a bleep with it.
Movie. Although you might hear it's a perfectly movie. All right, enough with the censor button.
It's funnier. I maintain my earlier stance. It is funnier with the bleep. Somehow it's funnier with the bleep. So
I agree with you. I agree with you. The bleep sells the swear.
Yeah, it does. Even if you're not actually swearing, it is funnier somehow with the beep.
Yeah.
So thank you. That's all 5. I didn't check any of the comments. I'm just gonna check the comments section here now. Yep.
Keep an eye on
didn't have any there, but no comments as far as live chat participation in this one. But thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Rob Kristjansson from Jim.
Thank you, Brian.
Sorry,
I cut you off.
Thank you.
No. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob Kristjansson from Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. You can find links to Rob's channel in the video description below this video. You can also find Rob on Fiverr for all of your voiceover and podcasting coaching needs, setup, everything.
Audio repair, and that can be done for your videos as well. Sound design. I do sound design, audio repair, audio mixing, whatever you need. Mastering.
And as we've already seen, we've seen some of the tools at his disposal, like the bright lights and the cool fader switches. He has the complete audio suite for all of your
buttons.
For all of the buttons, the glowy buttons, the red buttons. He has all of the buttons for his disposal that you can hire him on Fiverr. Fiverr with 2 R's.
Even more importantly, I have a number of plugins that do help me do that heavy lifting. So,
and who doesn't enjoy a good plug-in here and there? So with that, the rim shot worthy, not so quite dirtiest joke of the podcast, I want to thank Rob Kristjansson for coming on Dragon Movie Guide podcast, talking about the movie news you can use. And we will say thank you everyone for viewing, and we will see you next time. See you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.